APC presidential campaign formally commiserates with people of Katsina State over recent killing of security volunteers.
Nigerian Railway Corporation suspends 2 train drivers over derailment at Kubwa Station in Abuja.
FCT administration orders arrest of Federal Housing Authority officials over collapsed building.
The standard which we subject our scrutiny by the development control of the FCT administration is completely different from what they do in FHA.
And on Good Morning Nigeria today, we shall discuss the integrity of the bimodal voter accreditation system and the just concluded mock exercise.
Since the conduct of the 2019 general elections, the electoral umpire, INEC, has continued to evolve strategies to correct some mistakes noticed in that exercise.
Now, this includes the malfunctioning of the card readers and other electoral glitches that, of course, characterized the polls 4 years ago.
And as part of efforts to change the narrative, the electoral umpire took steps to amend the electoral law, making provisions for the use of technology to enhance the process.
As a way to test run the equipment before the general elections beginning on the 25th of February, INEC conducted a mock accreditation exercise in some selected polling units across the country last Saturday, the 4th of February 2023. And that was 3 weeks to E-Day.
Yes, and the observers and prospective voters adjudged the functionality of bimodal voter accreditation system, BVAS, as good, even though there were some instances where the machines did not capture the biometrics of some voters who registered from 2011, as well as fingerprints and facial features of elder voters.
In addition, there were reports of late arrival of INEC officials for the mock exercise. There was also low turnout of voters traceable to poor awareness, voter migration, and oversized polling units, as well as inadequate communication.
As INEC moves towards a full-scale deployment of technology for the 2023 general elections, would the few weeks left be enough to address the challenges noticed during the mock accreditation? What kind of awareness campaign needs to be done to make voters fully aware of their polling units and do's and don'ts for proper biometric capturing of voters?
Now, how would INEC also address the issue of logistics as noticed during the mock exercise? And what roles should the political parties and other stakeholders play in creating increased awareness? These are some of the issues we intend to seek answers to as we discuss the integrity of the bimodal voter accreditation system and the mock exercise that took place last weekend. On today's edition of Good Morning Nigeria, I'm Kingsley Osadolo, and I thank you for joining us today.
And I'm Kirian Umayo. Welcome to the flagship morning show coming to you live only on the network service of the NTA. And as usual, we'll serve you other complimentary package that we have this morning in the course of the program. For now, let's get Ann Jibuno to deliver the morning news highlights. Hello, Ann.
Hello, Kieran and Kingsley. Good morning. Nigeria, here's the news. APC's Presidential Campaign Council, led by President Muhammadu Buhari, has formally commiserated with the people of Katsina over the recent killing of security volunteers by bandits in Bakalori local government area of the state. This was during a visit to sympathize with the Emir of Katsina, Abdul Mumini Kabir Uthman, in his palace.
We wish Asuaju the best of luck, and we will back him through and through.
No leader will be happy to see his citizens slaughtered.
Meanwhile, the Supreme Court has declared President of the Senate, Ahmed Lawan, as the authentic candidate of the All Progressives Congress for Yobe North Senatorial District. The 5-man panel of justices in a split judgment of 3-2 affirmed that the matter adjudicated upon by both lower courts was an internal affairs of the party which the court has no jurisdiction over. Governments of Kaduna, Kogi, Zamfara states have dragged the federal government before the Supreme Court to hold full implementation of the policy ending validity of the old 200, 500 and 1,000 naira denominations on February 10th, 2023. The three northern states, in a motion ex parte filed on their behalf by their counsel, Abdul Hakim Othman Mustafa SAN, are asking the Supreme Court to grant them an interim injunction to prevent the federal government from carrying out its plan to end the period within which the now outdated 200, 500 and 1,000 naira denominations may no longer be legal tender on February 10th. The plaintiffs in the suit are the three attorneys general and commissioners of justice of the three states, while the attorney general of the federation and minister of justice, Abubakar Malami, SAN, is the sole respondent. The plaintiffs claim that since the new naira note policy was announced, there has been a severe shortage of new naira notes in Kaduna, Kogi and Zamfara states. No date has been fixed for hearing on the matter. 13 out of the 18 political parties in Nigeria have threatened to withdraw from February 25th and March 11th general elections if the new deadline of February 10th, 2023 over the Naira redesign policy of the Central Bank of Nigeria is extended. A coalition of chairmen of political parties and candidates at a media briefing in Abuja stated this position.
We cannot guarantee the credibility of the election where people have access to illicit funds to buy votes and compromise the electoral officials.
Minister of Finance, Budget and National Planning, Zainab Shamsuna Ahmed, has presented symbolic checks of sovereign sukuk issue proceeds valued at 130 billion naira to the implementing ministries. It will be released as part of capital expenditure in the 2022 Appropriation Act, which has been extended by the National Assembly to March 31st, 2023.
The objectives of deepening the domestic capital market and financial inclusion are also being achieved by this process. The private sector and the subnational governments have also embraced this instrument.
The Nigerian Railway Corporation (NRC) has suspended 2 train drivers and a shunter over derailment at the Kubwa station in Abuja. Confirming the incident, the manager Abuja to Kaduna train services, Pascal Noli, said drivers of the ill-fated train and the shunter were suspended over allegations of negligence. The drivers were said to be over-speeding beyond the regulated limit at a diversion within the parameters of the stations, while the shunter on duty failed to change the point rightly, leading to the train derailment. Pascal Norley said a committee has been set up to look into the matter to prevent future reoccurrence. Meanwhile, Minister of the Federal Capital Territory, Mohammed Musa Bello, has ordered the arrest of officials of the Federal Housing Authority and developers of the collapsed 3-story building in Gwarimpa. Coordinator of the Abuja Metropolitan Management Council, Umar Shuaibu, dropped this hint while briefing journalists in Abuja.
The standard to which we subject our scrutiny by the development control of the FCT administration is completely different from what they do in FHA.
Well, that's the news for now. Good morning, Nigeria continues with Kieran and Kingsley after this break. Please stay with us.
All right, if you just joined us, this is Good Morning Nigeria on NTA. Now, let's go business. Nigeria Customs Service launches Fast Track 2.0 program, pledges to keep harnessing technology to facilitate trade. Well, let's get to know what that is all about, as Kunle Adeye explains.
With Fast Track 2.0, operations of the Nigeria Customs Service have been fully automated. The service is particularly optimistic. The reduction in human interaction will increase voluntary compliance, which is a plus to the federal government's ease of doing business policy.
The FT 2.0 is a precursor to the introduction of the Authorized Economic Operator Scheme, which guarantees even more benefits for compliance. I hope some of you know exactly what it means. It is an upgrade of the 2.0 to fast track. It is a scheme that gives you much more benefits as an importer.
The Fast Track 2.0 coming on board after the inauguration of the Deep Blue Sea port in Lagos. Relevant agencies and international organizations are saying Nigeria's business environment is changing.
It will go a long way in helping Nigeria also, especially with regards to the ease of doing business in Nigeria. And I must thank the World Bank, most especially for the assistance that they've been given in this regard.
This is where Fast Track 2.0 comes into the overall development agenda of Nigeria. In terms of revenue mobilization, this may not be apparent at this point, and we hope it will be apparent that this kind of program, the Global Experience has shown, can actually help not just on trade facilitation, but on the revenue mobilization front.
Customs has enjoined other agencies to embrace automation to ultimately achieve a unified system. With Business News, I'm Kunle Adeye.
Thank you very much, Kunle Adeye, for the business package on Good Morning Nigeria. Up next, newspaper review.
So we now have our newspaper reviewer, Chukwudi Waja. Chukwudi, it's good to see you again.
Hello, Kieran.
Yes.
Welcome back from your short break. It wasn't really short. It was almost extending into 3 weeks.
My friend.
You're welcome, my brother. Kingsley, how are you doing?
Very well, and you?
I'm okay.
Good.
All right, we have 3 papers for review this morning, plus, of course, other papers that Chukwudi may have to bring in the course of the analysis. For now, let's begin with the Punch newspaper. The Punch, above the name flag of the paper, we will hunt down 16 Nigerian killers in Burkina Faso, as according to Buhari. It's on page 8. Court stops Lagos International Airport concession. Page 29 is where you get details of that story. Autumn shuns Atiku campaign, Islam's governor. It's on page 8. All right, now below the nameplate. New Naira, that's the kicker, this story now. Governors' parties begin legal battle over CBN deadline. 3 right after that. El Fry, Matawale, Yaya Bello sue federal government, demand extension. Court backs parties, stop CBN Buhari from shifting deadline. EFCC naps Abuja bank manager holding 29 million naira new notes. And of course, the photo story here is one that is very touchy, and that's the earthquake that happened in Turkey and Syria. The world mourns as earthquake kills over 2,700 in Turkey and Syria. But I think about last night it increased about 3,000. From the foreign news. Okay, that's on page 26. Now, Magban may take military to ICC over Heda's bombing. President. That's on page 3. Man arraigned for burning wife, brother-in-law to death. It's on page 4. 613 billion naira Sukuk loan spent on roads and bridges, according to the federal government. Details of that on page 17.
Okay, we also look at the front page of the Vanguard newspaper. We haven't seen the Vanguard for a long while. Above its name flag, PDP, APC fight over alleged 22.5 billion naira vote buying fund. PDP, APC fight over alleged 22.5 billion naira vote buying fund. With a rider, APC plotting to swap 22.5 billion naira for vote buying. That's a claim by the PDP. And blames two Northwest governors as arrowheads, alerts security forces. Account for $2 billion arms fund. APC, PCC challenges PDP. Katsina killing. Death toll rises to 100 and more residents still missing. The lead story has a double-decker headline and a number of riders. Old notes, which is the kicker, don't extend February 10 deadline. Court tells federal government and Central Bank of Nigeria. As Kogi, Kaduna, and Zamfara drag federal government to Supreme Court, 14 political parties threaten withdrawal from polls. You see the photograph there taken at a First Bank branch in Abuja, was showing EFCC officials monitoring ATMs. Ekweremadu in court as alleged organ harvesting trial commences. Rescuers walked through night after Turkey and Syria quake kills 3,000. NIPC to slash Nigeria's appetite for borrowing. And in sports, Nigerian footballer Hadi dies in Spain. Unfortunately, he collapsed on the pitch. And 4.6 million girls at risk of FGM by 2030. That's female genital mutilation by year 2030. And that's according to UNFPA and UNICEF. Carry on.
Okay, now to conclude, we have the leadership newspaper. Let's go there. From top to bottom. A struggle for Southern presidency must not be in vain. Accreditation there is on page 16. Yobe North, Supreme Court verdict, democracy at work, according to Lawan. Okay, page 6 is where you have the story. Now, the below the name flag, fuel crisis, NNPC Limited, Ipman reach agreement on direct supply and pricing. It's on page 10. World mourns over 3,000 deaths in Turkey, Syria earthquake. Lead story, 3 days to go. Cash crunch worsens. Banks defy CBN on 20,000 naira OTC payment. It's on page 4. Well, we have 4 writers to that story. Mammoth crowd persists at ATMs. Kaduna, Kogi, Zamfara appealed Supreme Court. 14 parties to boycott 2023 polls if federal government dumps policy. Court bars PMB, that's President Buhari and Mefele, from shifting deadline. There are other stories here. Federal government awards 85 billion 2023 census contract to indigenous technology giant Zenith. It's on page 19. Katsina killings. We lost 102 persons, says community leader. Page 10. Air Force jet crash lands at Lagos Airport. On page 6. Chugudi.
Yes, Kirian.
Yeah, what is trending?
If APC and PDP are feuding over alleged please, vote buying funds, the impression people would have is that maybe after all, CBN, federal government, they have a case about ensuring that we have polls that are not tied to what money comes out of a man's pocket and all that. Exactly. So let's leave it. It's a moot point. I just mentioned it. Let me quickly go to a related story, and that's about the old notes. A court is stepping in this time around and actually asking 27 banks, the federal government and the CBN, not to go beyond the February 10 deadline. So some kind of legality has come into it. Well, legality has already come into it because the CBN, given its reasonable autonomy, is in a position to do some of these things, and then the instruments were invoked properly to make the Naira redesign happen. But now a court is coming in telling the federal government, the CBN, and 27 commercial banks not to extend the deadline. This is happening as Zamfara, Kogi, and Kaduna states themselves have headed to the Supreme Court, arguing in the opposite. I think, to me, this is an opinion. Let us allow this Naira redesign happen. The heavens will not fall. And to tell you the truth, the suburb where I live, some storekeepers who were so obsessed with Naira notes have now been forced to get their point of sale machines, and now you can buy things without carrying cash. So the aim, one of the aims of the monetary policy that it changed is already being realized. Let us give it a chance, you know. But maybe more importantly to me, following the Osun incident, INEC has tested the BVAS, the bimodal voter accreditation system, in a mock exercise. And they are reporting that, as my chemistry teacher would say in those days, within limits of experimental error, the law still stands. Exactly. Chukwudi never understood whatever law they were talking about, whether it was Charles or Boy's law. But they said within limits of experimental error, the law still stands. INEC is saying that BVAS has worked expectedly, and they are giving us hope that this machine is going to do a lot. We must remember what BVAS means to Nigerians. Somebody in the southeast has started something some people are calling a movement. He's hanging his hopes on BVAS working perfectly. The PDP at Atiku Abubakar is saying, oh, the last time things did not work because cyber realities were not allowed to work. He is hoping BVAS is going to work. The ABC is saying the power of incumbency will prove to them that we are truly going to win. There will be no disputes.
Yes.
BVAS has so many things
that
built
happens to
around
be our topic this morning. So,
yes.
you know, we're exactly
fine.
We're
so
experts to discuss that.
Okay.
You know, I was not trying to stop you, really. I was just trying to, you know, inform you that we're going to, that's the major, you know, topic for this morning's,
that's a good one.
Conversation. But you have raised a very good point. You know, all the comments that you made, you know, with respect to Naira, new design Naira, and the aims and objectives for of that policy, you know, that is being realized, which is very true, right? And in such exercise, one should expect that it will not just be so seamless, you know, because of course we have a population, and again the kind of economy that we run, we are trying to get to cashless society.
Sure.
But again, if you look at the kind of economy that we have, it's majorly on trade and petty trade for that matter. And so people exchange cash, and you can't go to a Wisa market or a market elsewhere, you know, in this country without having some cash, you know, to buy. Of course, people are beginning to imbibe the cashless,
exactly.
But it's going to be a gradual thing. Exactly, it's a gradual thing.
All you need is to start thinking like that. We must leave yesterday and come into today so that tomorrow can be properly anticipated. That's my opinion on the matter.
Well, I want to raise additional issues on the Naira crunch. That's the new notes crunch that you're seeing queues all around the banking halls and at ATMs. We have to recognize one fact. Nigerians, we are sometimes our own worst enemies. Nigerians, the way we inflict pain on others in order for us to enjoy an advantage.
That's sadism.
Everyone seeks to game the Nigerian system. So fuel is available, but it is hoarded by marketers.
Sure.
Central Bank has been saying we have supplied new Naira notes to the banks, but the banks were not disbursing these notes.
Where are the notes?
Hang on, and then videos have suddenly surfaced showing in the vaults new Naira notes being hidden behind old ones. Yesterday in the Federal Capital Territory, a manager in one of the branches was picked up because he had in his strong room 29 million Naira new notes, not dispensed. At the weekend, in the central area of Abuja, no ATM was working. No ATM was working. The same thing will be in different parts of the country. People say, oh, no Naira notes, oh, no Naira notes. Oh. The Naira notes are there in the vaults. Why don't you get them out into the system? And I said yesterday on Good Morning Nigeria, why is it that the Bankers Committee has not said a word on this thing? Why is it that despite the reputational harm that they are suffering, bank CEOs have been mute? Is it to be announcing humongous and obscene profits when your customers are in pain and in anger? And to show you what precisely we are faced with, a little over 2 years ago, October 2020, when they had the NSAS. You saw what happened. After protesters broke into warehouses and they saw the palliatives, the COVID palliatives that were stocked in those warehouses, and protesters were saying, oh, our leaders are very wicked, or our politicians are very wicked. The same way people are holding, the bankers are holding new naira notes in their banking vaults. But I'm not saying go and break into a bank's vault. Don't do, it's a criminal offense. But why would you hold these notes?
To me, that's homicide by financial suffocation.
You know, I just came back from Enugu. I came back from Enugu 2 days ago. So I was caught up by that, in Coal City, my darling Coal City, where you buy fuel for 450 naira, 470 naira. And we have leaders in that state that cannot call marketers to order, right? And the issue of exchange of the 90 naira is a total different bottle of kettle of fish in Enugu. It's total business. 50,000 naira, you pay 12,000, 10,000. Right, POS person will do that. Now there's a collaboration between some POS operators and banking officials in the bank. And again, what I found out was that some of those bankers, most of our bankers, Kingsley, are not permanent staff or regular staff of the banks. Most of them are casual staff. So they are there for business. So they are catching on this to make money. So they give money to their relatives, okay, and they want to give to you. They will tell you that, okay, I'm giving you 50,000 naira, you give me 58,000. It became a business. Everywhere it was happening. I said, look, I have to buy because my family has to exist. That's what it is. So he has opened business for Nigerians.
Illegal business.
Illegal business for that matter,
The point of sale operator, I asked him, why would I pay you 600 naira because I'm asking for 6,000? He said, Oga, now buyer. I just add small money to it here, I pay. I looked at him and I felt he is not really my enemy. My enemy is located elsewhere.
And then, Chukwudi, what we are saying now, you can read some jokes. Oh, Naira is now exchanging for Naira. Naira is falling against Naira. But this is how we harm ourselves. You can see businesses have shrunk. Transactions have shrunk. Because people have no cash.
Sure.
And then one other thing. It was so easy to turn the CBN into a villain. But you see, our problem is not with laws. We have many laws. Enforce the laws. See what has happened with EFCC going out, ICPC going out.
Over fuel.
And not over fuel.
Okay, cash thing.
And there's the CBN Banking Supervision Department. How many are they? But they have also gone out, going from one location to the other, and they are unearthing these monies, brand new notes, that are being warehoused by bank officials are causing needless hardship for the citizens. Why do we like to punish ourselves?
Yeah.
And the worship centers will bubble on Fridays and Sundays. You don't know who the criminals are.
The same people who will thank God, who will praise Allah, they are the same persons who are perpetrating this hardship against the rest of us.
People who go and look at us and
say,
people who go and do Thanksgiving,
what are they doing
after making illegal money, they go and do Thanksgiving.
No, but I think, Kirian, it's important that the EFCC, ICPC, and the banking supervision officials of the CBN should continue with their spot checks.
Oh, sure.
Just randomly, do it in the morning, do it mid-morning, do it in the afternoon, do it before they close. Anyone you said, make a scapegoat or two of these elements, and everybody will sit up.
Gentlemen, I'm so touched by this story, this
from Turkey?
Earthquake in Turkey and Syria. And I was busy studying the topography of the area to know that it's an earthquake-prone place. And I came to understand that the area is situated on a plate, called the Anatolian plate.
It's a fault line.
Yes, which has two major fault lines.
They've been inspecting for decades, really.
Exactly. So it's really a bad sight. Seeing what people were struggling with their bare hands to help people.
Over 3,000 died, but we want to thank the world. 45 countries have responded immediately, and the people of Turkey are taking solace
and Syria,
in the fact that humanity is remembering them in this dark
very important. And of course, this is the deep winter for them. The weather is cold, biting cold.
Yes.
And if you saw some of the footage of skyscrapers, multi-story structures just pancaking into rubble.
Exactly.
It's
a major earthquake.
Major earthquake. Well, of course, Turkey has suffered from earthquakes in the past.
Yes.
Iran also suffers from earthquakes.
It's a kind of belt.
But to lose 3,000 human beings and counting.
It was a huge one.
I mean, it's a huge
The initial one was 7.8 on the Richter scale.
It was not just the earthquake, but
the second one was close to the big first one again, 7.5. And that extended to the Syrian border.
Exactly. The aftershocks alone, created its own damages. Not even the major earthquake itself. After the quake, the shocks come. And the shocks, you just and
there are some persons who are specialists, architects, who are specialists in earthquake design.
Oh, sure.
Yes, constructing structures.
The structure, exactly.
To suit the environment. Our hearts go out to those in Turkey and Syria who have lost their loved ones, and the way the world has responded is a beautiful thing, and we commend all the responders in this particular instance. But you have to be prepared.
You have to be prepared.
Even in responding to this, it shows you that they had a storehouse of relief materials to immediately deploy.
Yes.
So when disaster strikes, how ready are you? How do you respond to your citizens who are in distress? In some other locations, this is the time politicians will be issuing all kinds of inflammatory and accusatory statements,
of course,
and so on and so forth. And in the meantime, people will be dying.
They keep looking for who done it.
Oh, absolutely. And in the meantime, nothing is done.
Yes.
Chukudi.
Always a joy to be here. Actually, I don't ever want it to end, but I know that the director is plotting to push me out one of these days.
All right, we'll take a short break. Chukudi, see you again tomorrow.
I'll see you guys
back
well.
very shortly.
Thank you.
Well, thank you for staying with us up to this moment on Good Morning Nigeria. Now, in the history of Nigeria, this is the first time INEC is going to make end-to-end deployment of technology in the general elections, courtesy of the Electoral Act. Abdulsalam Jibril will put us through in this background report, which of course has set the pace for our conversation this morning.
With less than 3 weeks to the 2023 general elections, the electoral umpire, the Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC, recently conducted a dress rehearsal towards ensuring a smooth conduct of the elections. During the nationwide mock voter accreditation, all eyes were particularly on the bimodal voter accreditation system, BVAS, which experts say is crucial to the conduct of the elections. This will be the first time INEC will be deploying the BVAS in a general election. Recall that the technology has been deployed in some off-season elections already. Some Nigerians that took part in the mock exercise nationwide expressed satisfaction at the performance of the commission, but noted that the exercise wasn't without challenges.
It's working very fast. We didn't have any issue. The only little issue we have is with the fingerprint, and the issue is from the people. Some of them, they wore henna in their hands. Some of them, their hand cried.
I was accredited successfully. So far, we are happy with what we have seen as far as the working of the BVAS is concerned.
We had citizens, electors, they are already here waiting, to show that electors are quite interested in participating in this process.
INEC Chairman Professor Mahmoud Yakubu stressed that the machines used during the mock exercise would be reconfigured in preparation for the main elections.
Voters have been verified using their PVCs and then authenticated using their fingerprint or facial, on the basis of which after successful accreditation, there is no report of failure. The machines are performed optimally, and this is the report we are getting so far nationwide.
Can INEC effectively address the challenges encountered during the mock exercise before the elections? This will form the crux of discussions as guests speak on INEC's preparedness ahead of the general elections shortly.
Thank you very much, Abdul Salam Jibril, for that background report. Now we have guests here with us in the studios as well as remote locations. Let's welcome Mr. Victor Aluko, Director of Voter Education and Publicity of the Independent National Electoral Commission. Mr. Aluko, we're glad to have you again in our studios.
Thank you. Good morning. Thanks for having me.
All right. Also here with us in the studios, of course, we'll highlight Mr. Aluko presently. Also here with us in the studios is regular on Good Morning Nigeria, Ezenwa Nwagu, Chairman, Partners for Electoral Reforms. Ezenwa, glad to see you this morning.
Thank you. Good morning.
Okay.
All right. We'll also be having with us this morning Arms Free Ajanaku. Okay, he's not here yet. From Lagos, we will be joined by Joy Ken Batwaya. It's a pleasure to have you join us on the program. Joy. Joy.
Good to be here.
We are going to be engaging our correspondents who actually monitored the mock election, and Joy is one of them. From Enugu, we have our correspondent, Susan Eze. Susan Eze, good morning. And how is Co City today?
Good morning. Good morning. Good to be here. Thank you.
All right. And from Kano, we are being joined by our correspondent, the NTA Kano, Aminu Umar. Aminu Umar also monitored the mock accreditation. Aminu, it's good to have you with us this morning.
Good morning, and thank you for having me.
All right. Once again, it's our pleasure to have all our guests here with us. We are expecting also from the Independent National Electoral Commission, a deputy director who is in charge of ICT because of the role of ICT in the successful deployment and utilization of BVAS, which is the Bimodal Voter Accreditation System. Let's begin by taking into account the experiences of our correspondents at the three locations, in Lagos, in Enugu, and in Kano. First, of course, we recognize that Lagos and Kano are heavy voting population centers in the country. Via Zoom from Kano, Amina Umar, what happened last Saturday when BVAS had a test run by way of mock accreditation?
Okay, good morning once again. On that Saturday, the experience was, we can say, a good one, because the voters, or I mean eligible voters, as early as 7 o'clock, some of them, they said they were there. And during the accreditation, they had the accreditation and it was successful. And mostly, the most effective one is the one that is using facial recognition. But what I've seen in one of the locations was the way the organization was done. It was organized very well. They had about 3 BVAS. It is exactly in Lorei Karama. They had 3 of them, and they divided them according to the alphabetical order. The one will go to where his alphabet falls, and he'll be guided by some of the INEC staff that were deployed there to do the exercise. And when a person comes with his PVC, they will take the numbers, that is the serial numbers of the PVC, when they insert it into the BVAS. Then when his PVC is recognized, then they attempt the thumb printing, and if that one fails, they attempt also the facial, and the facial is mostly the most effective. Because of that, most of the officials don't even try the thumb printing because they know the facial is the most effective. So in one of the locations that we visited, he even gave us a way of statistics. He said out of 43 people that he captured, both of them, 40 of them use facial recognition, and he has all the challenges that he faced from those that he attempted to use their thumbprint. So I think from all that we've seen, the facial recognition proved to be the most effective.
All right, just a further question with respect to what transpired. You're giving it a pass mark, but are you saying there's no complaint of any sort? Because we read earlier here that sometimes BVAS has issues with identifying people's physiognomy. That's the facial identification, especially the elderly ones. So what category of persons did you see there that came for this identification or for this mock election? Do we have the elderly, who of course are going to vote on the voting day?
On that day, I did not see any elderly, because me too, it was what I looked out for, because it will form part of the news, because if you see an elderly is where the person maybe will be needing extra guide, and also the people with special need. I've not seen anyone. We visited 3 local governments out of the 6 that were identified for the exercise. We were in Kumbo's local government, and then the one local government in the city, and then there is another local government outside, that is a Bichi local government. And in all the locations, I have not seen an elderly person, and we have not seen any challenge, because most of them, the women and youth, I've not seen any elderly person.
Thank you very much, Aminu Umar from Kano, giving us a report on the mock accreditation exercise last weekend. We'll come back to you later in the course of the conversation. We go over now to our Lagos Network Center, where we earlier introduced Joy Abakboya. Joy, what happened in Lagos?
Well, thank you, Kingsley. The mock accreditation had every semblance of a real election day. It was more like it was election day here. As at 8:30 in the morning, Saturday, when the mock accreditation began, a large crowd of voters, eligible voters, had already turned up. It was quite surprising. And the BVAS performed as expected. It was the process was smooth. It was seamless. The voters on arrival had to go check. There was a register, I think, voter register, where you had to confirm that you were supposed to vote in that polling unit, and they did that. After checking that, they got numbers, and then moved on to the BVAS, and it was smooth. One thing I noticed was after the checking, the register and all of that, the BVAS took less than 20 seconds to clear each voter. As at the first hour of my arrival there, from 8:30 to 9:30, about 186 voters had been cleared. And when I left that polling unit before 11, because I had to go to other polling units, all of the 200 voters that were present had already been cleared. The process was seamless, no difficulties. The INEC officials used more of the facial recognition process. They hardly used the thumbprint. There was no challenge, and the voters organized themselves orderly. Everything was orderly. They were security men, but they had nothing to do. It was smooth. It was smooth.
Let me not ask you another question, because from your explanation, it appeared that it was excellent, in the areas we visited in Lagos. That's what Nigerians will be expecting during the election. Now, Susan, as you monitored Enugu, How did it go?
In Enugu, the exercise held in 6 local government areas, 2 from each of the 3 senatorial zones. So that morning when we left, because the INEC office is close to our NTA station, we had to reach there to see what's going on there. When we arrived, we saw the INEC officials leaving in their buses to the respective centers where the accreditation will hold. So from there we went to Obiago Primary School, one of the centers. When we got there, the venue was arranged, the officials were already there working, few people were seated, and it's true that we didn't see anybody getting accredited at the time we arrived. So we asked, and they said, because it takes less than 1 minute to accredit one person, so people come in, do the accreditation, and they leave. There was no point. So we didn't see that crowd that you usually see where such exercises take place. There wasn't any crowd, but from their report, people are coming. At the time we came few minutes after they had started, and they said they had done about 20 people, that they come, they get accredited, and they leave. And we were there, some other people now came, and we saw how the process goes, and it was fantastic. Even the people sitting down, everybody was so excited, because before now there was this anxiety that this BVAS of a thing, this technology, will it work? So when the people come and they present their PVC, they will think it's a cumbersome process. Before you know it, they are done, and even them themselves, they will be like, am I done? And they will say, yes, you're done. I should go. Yes, you can go. And they were all happy. They give INEC kudos for the easy process. But also in that center, while we asked questions, they told us that out of the 20 people they had treated, 2 people had issues getting those 2 people accredited, and they said they were elderly, very elderly people. They had issues with the facial capturing. I think they said their eyes or something, but that they noted down the details of the problems, and they said they would communicate same to the ICT unit of INEC. Then when we left there, went to another center, we also met people there. There it was also seamless. No issues with the machine, no issues, there was no crowd. They told us that earlier before we came, there was a large crowd. But what happened was that, in that center they have many units. And out of the many units, it's only one that is being used for this test run. So most of the people that came out, out of excitement to experience this new technology, many of them belong to those other units that were not selected for the exercise. Some left, some sat back to watch those whose unit belonged to the one that is being used. And all the people they accredited, they didn't have issues at all with anybody in that polling unit. And we interviewed those who participated, we interviewed, even election observers were there, and the INEC officials, and everybody testified. It was a unanimous testimony that this machine is working. And one of them particularly said that the major excitement for her is that there is no issue of network, that network is not a barrier. So I had to go back and ask the INEC official, truly, don't you need network for this? He said, no, that to do the accreditation, they don't need network. It's only to do transfer of information that they will now use network. So network is not a barrier for the accreditation. And now it was just a fine outing, no hitches. People were excited and they expressed their feelings.
Susan, thank you very much for your account of what transpired in Enugu. We will come back to you and, of course, raise some more questions with respect to what went on and what could be of concern when voting commences in less than 3 weeks from now. So we're back to our headquarters studios here in Abuja. Earlier we introduced Victor Aluko, Director of Voter Education and Publicity of INEC. Mr. Aluko, we're glad to have you again in our studios. You were listening to the accounts of our reporters. These were witnesses to the mock accreditation exercise. You seem to be smiling most of the time, even though you also had some concerns. But before we come to you, I want to bring in now SN1 Wango. SN1 Wango, what feedback did you get from the mock accreditation exercise?
Well, you know, I'm associated with IAGA as a member of the board. IAGA had a data center where we deployed observers to some of the polling units, selected polling units across the country. The reports are not too different from the openers that we have had from your correspondents across the states. But my preface will be to say that I don't think this is the time for chest thumping. I think the idea of a mock is to be able to draw lessons. So what went well about 84% process-wise was excellent in terms of accreditation, in terms of and then result transmission and the time for processing each of the eligible voters. But as time goes on, perhaps we'll begin to go into the real challenges that this mock accreditation has presented and what INEC needs to do. Because one of the things is to capture imagination. And when the real exam comes and you dash that imagination, that's where you have a crisis. So I think that we should temper the excitement that I see, really, both from our own reports. Reading those reports, I was like, fine, but if we go out like this in the manner in which we're going, and then we don't do the necessary due diligence, because all this is an integrity test for both equipment and personnel. And so the result of that integrity test, considering that it is around 436 polling units out of 120,000 polling units, then you know that you are dealing with a very small fraction of the polling units that we're going to have this. But the integrity test has come out well in terms of accreditation. The BVAS performed well in most of the places where it was deployed. And what was important was that there were more than one or two BVAS in a polling unit, meaning that INEC was ready to test those to be sure that those equipment were functioning very well. And even where it did not perform well, in just relatively 2% of those polling units, what was heartwarming was that there was desire, there was, promptness, 10 minutes actually, in getting a replacement or even fixing what the challenge is. So for me, I think INEC deserves the bragging right that it's currently enjoying, but it is also a time for sober reflection.
Yes, thank you. Maybe in the course of the program, you will let us know the challenges that this mock exercise, presented to INEC and the rest of us. Victor Aluko, you listened to our correspondent, and of course what SN1 had to say. But I took you on two things. First is the issue of identifying the BVAS being able to the elderly, their face, facial identification. That's number one. And number two is this. Did you deploy the ad hoc staff of INEC in this exercise? Those whom we are going to deploy during the election, for them to also, some of them who might be new, to understand the process and the deeds of the BVAS in administering the process.
Thank you. I listened to the reports from across the country. Of course, we had our own monitoring process too, and the media covered these the civil societies and observers covered. We have a lot of reports in-house now. The truth is, we've been able to test BVAS across all terrains in the country, all over the 109 senatorial districts, in various climatic areas, various geographical areas. We'll be able to see how the equipment performed. That was necessary. Secondly, I can say all the objectives we set out to achieve were actually achieved in terms of people relating with the BVAS machines all over. And we've noticed some of the few complaints, like the issue of elderly, recognizing the elderly people. It's an issue we've noticed, and of course, it's an engineering thing, and our ICT people will look into that, because whether you would respect our elders a lot, they have a right to vote. We don't want situations where in any polling unit on February 25, you have somebody who is 75, who takes the whole, effort. Who makes the whole effort to come to the polling unit, and the person will be having problems. That will not be good. So we will solve all those problems. Then we also noticed that speed on election day is possibly the most important thing. A presiding officer must be fast with the BVAS machine. And our observers have drawn our attention to this. We have places where, as your reporter said, in less than 30 seconds, the voter was authenticated. We had in a particular place, it took like 2 minutes. For us, 2 minutes will be too much. We were comfortable with 30 seconds, 1 minute, because the process does not end with accreditation. Once somebody is accredited, he will now have to receive a ballot paper. Then you have to go to the cubicle, you have to thumb print, and you have to drop the ballot paper in the ballot box. So that process itself, we are timing the process. So accreditation is just a part of it. And so if somebody will take 2 minutes to get accredited, it takes time off other processes. And if you have 500 people in the polling unit, and somebody is taking 2 minutes to get only just accreditation. So we are looking to the issue of timing. Then we're also looking into the issue of the general disposition of our officials. We use a number of our staff. It's a test, actually. It's a test run. Because the atmosphere on election day, as my brother and friend, Mr. Senwa Newton, is quite different from mock. It's just like a team having friendly match. On football day, the main matches are different from friendly matches. So what we noticed during the mock accreditation, we're looking into the reports. We will learn some lessons too. And on election day, we believe we'll be able to fix all those issues. After all, the BVAS was designed as an upgrade on the smart card readers we were using before, to make it possible for us to be able to accredit everyone. When we use smart card readers, once the fingerprint fails, we go for the incident form, and we knew how people are busy. But this time around, there's no incident form. So once, sorry, sir. Okay. I noticed that many of the reporters were saying that most people were authenticated with their facials. It's okay. The BVAS was designed to use either the facial or the fingerprint. So whichever one is used, we are comfortable.
I'm still concerned about the elderly. Because it's an engineering thing, it's technology. Yes. But the one you have already in the BVAS could not identify someone who's registered and who also has a thumbprint. So if on election day, the BVAS fails to identify somebody's face, but can identify the person's thumbprint, and the person is registered, can the person vote?
Of course. Actually, the idea is the BVAS, I told you, is an upgrade on smart card reader. While smart card reader use only or fingerprint, BVAS uses both fingerprint and the faces. So the idea is, if you test your fingerprint and it fails, we test your face. So either of the two can identify persons. And once one identifies you, we move on to voting. So it's quite okay for us.
Okay, Mr. Victor Aluko, thank you very much. I want to return to our correspondence very briefly. But before we do that, I earlier recall that I did say that we're expecting the INEC director, deputy director in charge of ICT, the INEC headquarters. Is here with us now in the studios, Dr. Lawrence Bayode. Dr. Bayode, we're glad to have you this morning on Good Morning Nigeria.
Thank you for having me, sir.
Okay, before we come to you, let's go back to Lagos. Joy Abakboya in Lagos. Let me ask this question. What was the protocol for the accreditation? Because all three correspondents, your good self, Susan, and Umar in Kano, they didn't seem to have told us what happened. Can I just walk into the accreditation center and nobody demands to see my PVC? In other words, was there a request to say, look, let's see your PVC? Because what I heard was that, oh, you go to a register, perhaps a paper register, to be sure that your name is there, and then you come back. Was there a demand for a PVC? That's one. And then without trying to trivialize this matter, you did say, and Mr. Luko has confirmed here, that if the thumbprint doesn't work and the facial works, that's great. Does makeup affect the readability of the BVAS?
Okay, thank you, Kingsley. First of all, there was a security check. You had to have your PVC before you're let into the polling unit. Everybody had to show their PVC. There was a barrier. You couldn't just walk into the polling unit. You must have a PVC before walking in there. And after walking in, you go, I'm trying to explain the process now. There was this place where a register was displayed, like I said before. You check that that polling unit was the right polling unit. It's where you're supposed to be. So you check and then you confirm your number on the register, tell the next person before you proceed to the BVAS. And then facial recognition was also used, and mostly it was quite early. I actually didn't notice anybody made up. I didn't notice anybody that was made up, so I can't really say if makeup would be a problem with the BVAS. People were just themselves, no makeup, and it was early. They came as they are. I don't think makeup would be a problem with the BVAS, actually.
I actually thought you were not going to talk about this makeup thing, but you went to it. Fine and good. I mean, it's early in the day, and nobody will expect to have a makeup.
The reason I raised it is, at the point of registration, during the CVR, it probably was later in the day, and against the backdrop of what Joy is saying, a voter probably would have been made up at that time. So the artificial intelligence that is embedded in BVAS now sees you early in the morning, as she says, that it's early and there is no pancake. So what happened? I mean, that's
okay. Now we have a deputy director of ICT and headquarters, Dr. Lawrence Bayode. Dr. Bayode, we're having concern here about the BVAS not being able to identify the physiognomy of the elderly. And what may have happened? Of course, Aluko told us that, well, if it can be identified facially, that it can also, use your thumbprinting and perhaps registration. Right, and I hope all the staff of INEC, or the ad hoc and the regular staff of INEC will understand that on election day. So what may have happened that led to the fact that the BVAS is having issues with the elderly?
Thank you once again for having me. Yes, we have noticed these issues right from the time when the BVAS was first introduced in one of the by-election in Delta State. And what we have done since then is to ensure that the driver of the camera of the BVAS is tweaked to accommodate the elderly. We also saw this in Osun, and from what we have on the BVAS now is a tremendous improvement from what we have deployed in all previous elections. And the reason for the mock exercise is to see whether the improvement on the camera or the drivers of the camera on the BVAS will actually accommodate the elderly. I saw some accreditation on social media in Kano, and an old man was standing, and his accreditation using the facial, he was able to be accredited using the facial, and for me it's a plus because the previous version of the driver of the BVAS camera wouldn't allow this old man to be accredited using his facial, and for me that is a plus. It means that going forward, the improvement will work very well on the elderly, and of course that's why it's called a bimodal accreditation device, because even if the facial fails, the fingerprint is there. So we are using both the fingerprint and the facial, just like Mr. Luke has said. If the fingerprint fails, then the facial is there for you. If the facial fails, the fingerprint is there for you. But if both fails, the policy of the commission is that such voter will not be allowed to vote.
Even when his name is on the register?
Yes. Even when your name is on the register, because...
and you have a PVC that bears the same name?
Yes.
You will not vote?
You will not be allowed to vote. Because if you're allowed to vote, it means that that could be... because your information will not be captured on the BVAS. Yes, it's your PVC, your name is on the register. So if the BVAS does not accredit you, and you're allowed to go to vote, because by the time the vote is being sorted and collated now, it means that the number of accredited voters will not be in sync with the number of ballot papers.
So you can't use your PVC to be identified. So the BVAS cannot identify a PVC to say, look, if all fails, right, and you have a PVC, which I don't know, would I believe they have chips or something in that if the PVC, if the BVAS sees it, it identifies the person. Is it not possible?
No. We have moved away from the era of smart card reader. It was when we were using the smart card reader that the smart card reader reads information from the
so the PVC is not a smart card?
Yes.
It's not just a smart card?
Now, it's no longer a smart card because all the security on the PVC now has been moved to the BVAS. So the security is on the BVAS now. So when you look at the cards that we are issuing now, all the security features of this card is no longer there. It's now on the BVAS.
And the BVAS is in possession and under the control of electoral officials.
Yes.
Okay, Dr. Bayode, let's take a deeper dive into BVAS. Other than accreditation of an eligible voter, what else does the BVAS do?
Yes, that name, BVAS, is Bimodal Voter Accreditation System. Now, it's in INEC, we call it all-in-one device because it is the same device that is also deployed for voter enrollment. Yeah, voter registration. So when it is deployed as voter enrollment device, it's referred to as IVED, INEC Voter Enrollment Device. So when it is being deployed as an accreditation device, we refer to it as BVAS. So on election day, we deploy this as BVAS, and we deploy this as BVAS on election day, and on election day, after the vote is sorted, counted, recorded on the form EC8A, that is the polling unit result form, it is this same device that will be used to snap the picture of that form EC8A, and that image is transmitted to our portal that we refer to as IREV, INEC Result Viewing Portal. So this device is used for accreditation and is also used for result transmission.
Transmission?
Yes.
So you can't use ordinary phone to do the transmission of result?
Yeah, because the application that we are using is not open. It's only residing on the BVAS. So you can't, even if you use your phone can snap the result sheet, but it can't transmit it to our backend server. It can only use this, because this is also in sync with the portal.
If a BVAS fails or snatched, as the case may be, how would you address that on election day? Since you rely so much on the BVAS for accreditation and transmission of results, and again I want to ask this: when somebody comes with PVC, how do you identify fake PVC?
Yes, our officials are trained to know the PVC
without using a gadget.
No. They know. We've trained them what to look out for on the PVC. Like I said, some of the security features like the gilloch, and
others
have been. We have taken them because it costs a lot for you to also be including that. Since we are already expending a lot to secure the BVAS, so there's no need for us to be expending a lot also to secure the PVC. So we have moved all those expenses to the BVAS, but we have also trained our staff on what to look out to say this card is produced by INEC. They know what to look out for as INEC staff. You may not know, but they know what to look out for to say, oh, this card is fake, or this card is cloned.
Okay, Dr. Bald. Oh, you go ahead.
And now when the policy of the commission is that if a system malfunction, we have those that we refer to as RATEX on the field. They are deployed to all the registration areas on election day to support the system. So they go in there to ensure that a malfunction BVAS is fixed and is returned back to work. And if it is stolen, we have a system that tracks all our BVAS. Online, I can deactivate this system if it is stolen. It has an ID and it's synced to the polling unit. All I need to know is for the person who is in charge of that polling unit to say, oh, my BVAS has just been stolen, has just been taken away. And from the back end, we just go and deactivate this.
But will you recover the information in the BVAS?
Yes, of course.
If it's snatched?
Yes.
Good.
Well, and then snatching or stealing is a criminal offense in the first place. Let's also know that. So anyone who might be tempted to do that will ready also to go to jail.
To jail, yes.
Mr. Victor Aluko, that's a point that I would like you to also clarify, because earlier you explained that the deployment for the mock exercise was across the 109 senatorial districts throughout the country and across also different geographical terrain, which is very important. Our correspondents told us that at the point of accreditation, they were informed that there was no need for the BVAS to be internet enabled because it was just accreditation. But Dr. Bayode is telling us now that this will also be used for transmission. What happens if you have network issues on election day?
Well, the ICT pool told us, and we've experimented it during the elections we conducted, that there could be network issues at the points at which the presiding officer is trying to transmit the results to IREV. But that between the polling unit and the ward collation center, that's the RA, Registration Area Collation Center, definitely we all experience this. Sometimes you want to transfer funds. You are having network problems. You move out to the front of your house, you see network. So the same thing happens, and that's the truth. Between the polling unit and the ward collation center, eventually the system encounters network, and by itself is transferred. So you could call that a delayed transfer. But the important thing is that there will be a transfer. And of course, the engineers tested all this even quietly You know, it's not everything that is done
It's disclosed,
that is exposed to the public.
Exactly.
Just like, test all these things quietly. And I'm sure that with what we have seen in other places, there's no perfect system actually. Only God is perfect. But what we have seen, if there's any place, any polling unit where the presiding officer encounters that network issue, definitely by the time he's getting to his World Collation Center, he must have
the network will come,
our service providers are all over the country. MTN all over, they cover the whole country, and eventually network will come. And I think that one will not be a problem.
Okay.
But INEC is keeping an eye on that aspect.
Are you also talking to the GSM operators? Maybe that's for another question. We'll get to know that they are working in tandem with what you are doing. Let's bring in again our friend here. You have listened to them, and of course earlier on you were talking about challenges presented by this mock. Let's share that with you. And you can also make comments on some of the things that have told us about BVAS, because of course you are an election person, you monitor elections in this country and understand what happens in the field.
Well, thank you. I think that truly there is no perfect system. But the challenge with us is our impatience with systems, especially when we capture imagination in the way we're going. So I've always told my very close friends in INEC to under-promise and over-perform. The reason I say that is when we tell Nigerians A, B, C, D, they will immediately hold you on that to the last minute. If you observe election elsewhere, systems fail. In the US, this is their mailing system. It's the biggest thing, the biggest form of election challenge that I know. But what happens if there is a problem? They tell you, oh, well, it doesn't impact the overall, and then they move on. They move on. But here, people will not move on. They are not going to move on.
And they hold on to it like you are holding on to the arms of the chair.
So that's why, for me, there is this conservatism that I hope we can bring to communication. And that's, for me, one of the biggest things that I've seen in the mock. One big challenge is INEC communication channel in terms of what did you put in to let Nigerians know that this mock was going to hold. You didn't see, in many of the places, people did not come out as expected. I thought that it had to do with how much we're able to publicize the fact that. Then this issue of big polling units. In Kogi, for instance, in Lokoja, there is a polling unit that you are still talking about 11,000 voters. There are many other places that you still have big numbers. I know that INEC is talking about migration from those polling units to other places, but I see complication in that. I was looking at the mock to see how INEC was going to manage that challenge.
Which challenge?
The challenge of people identifying people who have been migrated.
Correctly identifying.
So, yes, the place, because many of them have been migrated from their original polling unit to a new polling unit. That communication is not that complication is going to rear its head during election, and it can create challenges in terms of, I can't find, and many of our people will not bother until that day, and then it is that day they will now make the hue and cry. So in terms of the machine, why did we get to where we are? Because it's always very important. What was fantastic, what was really wrong with the smart card reader? The smart card reader was running side by side with the incident form, and the incident form was not it didn't raise the integrity level for elections. So you had to take it away and bring a system, an improved system. And by the way, I want to also place it on record that INEC is, as part of our recommendation in our report for this mock, INEC continues to be that institution in Nigeria that is working very hard to improve its systems to serve Nigeria better. We have to put that there so that, but more importantly is that you see this whole, challenge of how do you raise the integrity to the point where Nigerians can be sure that votes count. And that's where we, sorry, just 1 minute, that's where we moved to this whole BVAS, facial, all of those things are just because of who we are. Ordinarily.
Not because of what INEC is.
No, it is actually who we are. Otherwise, you do a fingerprint, you do facials, all of those things is just to ensure that the bearer of this card is and to eliminate voter identification theft. So once that, so as we continue, we must get to a point where we can have elections without these gadgets.
All right.
Because technology itself is not a silver bullet, because there is a way we are talking about these BVAS in Nigeria as if it solves all our electoral
it cures all electoral problems.
But that is not going to be true, because the mock presents you a different kind of scenario. In the backwater communities of our country, when emergencies, when you have emergency, when that emergency comes, a lot of things are shelved. And we don't have a reverse engineering method except there is a problem. Okay. So we need to build in the mind of our people that it is technology and that there are challenges with technology which we can face, but that there is a resolve to overcome those challenges.
Okay, thank you very much, Ezenwa Wango, for your comments, and our correspondents out there and our guests here in the studios. We're going to take a short break now. When we return, we'll continue with the conversation.
Well, still on Good Morning Nigeria this morning. I will thank you for staying with us up to this moment. Of course, we have a full house now as another guest just joined us. He is Arms-Free Ajanaku. Arms-Free Ajanaku is a media and elections expert. Arms-Free, you're welcome.
Thank you. My privilege to be here.
Yeah, we've already, dived into this program so deep, But again, you are here, and we'll hear from you. We are discussing the integrity of BVAS with respect to the upcoming elections. And just last Saturday, there was a mock election held in different parts of the country, in fact, covering all the geopolitical zones of the country. What's your take on that, and what did it present to Nigeria?
So, for us at the Center for Democracy and Development, we deployed 111 observers that collected data on the process. And the very first thing we observed was late arrival of INEC officials. And we saw that in several polling units, arrival was not what we expected it to be. Some polling units had arrival as late as 11:30, 12. That's on one side. But on the other hand, we saw the BVAS working smoothly in several of the polling units we observed. So if we put the what we observed that didn't go well as well as what went well, would give the exercise a good score, because on the other hand, we saw this exercise as a very good test run, like a dry run, to see some of the challenges that will be in the process and to see how those challenges can then be addressed in the elections proper. So another thing we found was a lot of misinformation about how the process works. I was listening to Ezenwa a while ago, and he talked about the fact that we need to under-promise and over-deliver. So we saw a situation in which people didn't get the information about what this exercise was about. Several people felt they could just walk into any polling unit and be part of the exercise, whereas, they were supposed to go to their specific polling units. We also saw, lots of misinformation coming out of the exercise, around the notion of some people that are thinking that they can vote without their, PVCs, that's because of the fact that they have their VIN numbers and all of that. So a lot of those information disorder problems, we saw also coming out of the process, which is why we recommended, number one, that INEC should consider bolstering its confidence building measures in terms of the way people perceive the BVAS, because we cannot run away from the fact that the Osun Election Petition Tribunal judgment has also hit citizens in a very negative way about the role of the BVAS, and we saw it playing out in this exercise. Then in terms of...
how did it play out?
Yeah, how it played out was, people, ordinary citizens thinking that is the BVAS as foolproof as, as it has been projected to be. Several of, observers talked, about people asking that, if the BVAS could upturn an election in, Osun State, which had already been declared by INEC, is it really as, can we really be as confident, about it as, so, but all of that is not really about the BVAS. It's the way the details of the judgment has been communicated, and people are, really having doubts about it. So we saw all those playing out in the course of our observation. The final thing I would like to mention for this response is that if you look at the ratio of the numbers where the mock accreditation was conducted against where it was not conducted, it was like a ratio of 1 to 404, which it shows the data point is really very small for us to make extrapolation. And when we then consider that not many people turned out, for example, we saw polling units where they had 750 registered voters, and you had just like 19 people turning up. So you couldn't measure enough in terms of the pressure that the BVAS could have taken if a lot more people had turned up during the process. So those are some of the things we looked at in the course of the mock accreditation.
All right. Again, thank you very much for your input, Mr. Amsfree Ajanako. I want to come back to Mr. Aluko, Director of Voter Education and Publicity of INEC. Amsfree Ajanako has raised a number of issues. One of them we will deal with perhaps in greater detail, which is the public perception arising from the Election Petition Tribunal in Osun and what it means for the integrity of BVAS. But it's raised a number of points, and I would like you to respond to those issues. Late arrival of staff, polling units crowded, and on election day, what do you do? People not knowing where to go to. I can just go to any PU and then see if I could get accredited. Mr. Aluko.
Yeah, thank you. Talking about the issue of voters able to identify their polling units, we are discussing this, and within the next few days, we will embark on a massive campaign tagged Know Your Polling Unit, especially the new registrants. Now, all over the country, in places where, as our last colleague talked about, where we had 11,000 people in one polling unit before, we created voting points, which we have converted all of them now to bona fide polling units. Now, what we have done is we've done what we call balancing voters across these units. So if you go to a big school environment and you had a polling unit there before that had 11,000, the major polling unit and the voting points, all those voting points have been converted to bona fide polling units with their own presiding officers and the complement of staff. Now, because they are still within the same environment, not far from each other, we have what we call verification process, where if you bring your PVC to that school area, every polling unit will have an assistant presiding officer 3 that is called APO3. His job is to do that verification. He looks at your PVC. He sees the code. You might not even know the code of your PVC because as a Nigerian, you may not know those things. He sees your code. He immediately tells you, it's there, go there. That's what So if you have 11 polling units there now, where you used to have only one, you are going to have 11 assistant presiding officers telling people that's your polling unit, that's your polling unit. That is a physical action on ground. That one will happen on election day to help those people that are on ground. Then we have electoral officers in every location, who we have instructed in places where we have created these polling units and also we have moved people. Please relate with the stakeholders at that local level. You agree with me that even political parties have what you call ward chairmen, ward executives. They are under instruction to relate with political parties even at that level, and also to relate with the opinion leaders, community leaders, local chiefs, because they know everyone in their localities. Where you have issues are very big urban centers. Take a place like Amak now. How many local chiefs can our officials go to? For such places, we rely a lot on the media, the social media, the traditional media. So we're going to embark on that process. Operation Know Your Polling Unit as an answer to that problem. And of course, we'll also be sharing all our efforts with the civil society organizations. For the issue of lateness of our officials knowing the mock something, maybe it happened in one or two places. And like we said, it's a mock exercise. At the beginning, before our colleague came, I was talking about a friendly match and the main match. A coach can decide to play 8 players instead of 11 to see what will happen to him if he collects 2 red cards on match day. How will his team cope? So we will try a lot of things. We try a lot of things that we may not even explain before we try them to see how will it be, how will it happen. If it happens that on election day in a particular polling unit in a state, that there are things we call unforeseen circumstances that officials, due to what is beyond their control, got there maybe an hour late. How do they cope? How will they cope within the hours available? So we experiment on so many things. But what we can assure people is that we have learned a lot of lessons from the mock. Because the mock itself, pushed out some things. Like the issue of elderly voting, which my ICT deputy director was talking about. That is, the system itself, the camera, could have issues with our respected older persons. And there will be the need to tinker with the camera to be able to accommodate persons. So, because you know that as God gives us more years, our face, visual something tend to also change in a way.
So that's why I was also asking about makeup earlier, and I didn't get a satisfactory. The makeup issue will be told over and over again that the system, whether you put 10 layers of makeup, that system will go deep and identify the person. Okay, that's
thank you.
Heartwarming.
In fact, I'm so glad that technology is being introduced in this process. But again, we know that technology is also ubiquitous. So one can also hack into your system because applications are applications. There are very good guys, who do this business, hacking business, right? So I hope we also check in that with respect to activating some security, arrangement in whatever that you have. Okay, we're not leaving our correspondents, my fellow colleagues, who monitored this mock election. Susan Eze, you gave a clean slate, to INEC, as you said, look, everything went well and all that. But you've listened to the guests here in the studio who have also raised some points with respect to challenges that may occur. Did you observe, as a good reporter you are, what could happen if the BVAS develops any challenge on the field? What's your take on that? What did you observe, in case of any malfunction or any kind of hitch that could come in the election process? How would you think it could be taken care of?
All right. While we were on the field, we bumped into the REC, the INEC Resident Electoral Commissioner here in Enugu, and these were some of the questions we asked him. And he assured us that beyond capturing the facials, if that fails, that the alternative is fingerprint. And that between these two, that one must work. That's the way the system has been configured. And then he also assured us that during the exercise proper, during the elections proper, the machines, the BVAS will be managed, will be manned strictly by INEC staff and not ad hoc. And he said these INEC staff have been trained on the use of those machines. So they've mastered the machines to remove inefficiency in its operations. So there will be ad hoc staff on ground, but these machines will be managed by staff who had been trained to identify fake PVCs and also to handle the machines. And he also told us that beyond this mock exercise, that the BVAS had been used in some off-cycle elections across the country. And between those off-cycle elections and this mock, that INEC has been, the ICT office has been gathering information on some gray areas on those machines. So they've been fine-tuning as reports come in from the experiences during the off-cycle elections and the reports they are getting from, they would note the areas of challenges. Just like I mentioned in my own report, they had challenges capturing 2 elderly persons. He said this has been coming up even during the off-cycle election. So the ICT units are working, fine-tuning, to dot the I's and the T's as regards to these challenges. So I believe what he said. He's the insider. They are working to eliminate those challenges. But where they occur, well, all things being equal, the general thing is that with the report they have, with the functionality they have seen on ground, there is reason to believe that this election will be a successful one as far as the BVAS is concerned. If there are challenges, they believe it won't be so big to mar the elections. So we all hope so.
Okay, thank you very much, Susan, for your response there to the questions. We're getting pressed for time. Dr. Lawrence Bayode, Amsri Ajanako talked about the concerns of some of the voters who turned up for the mock exercise, saying against the backdrop of the decision of the Osun Election Petition Tribunal, there are concerns about the integrity of the BVAS. So is the BVAS a temporary host of election result data, or is it to be relied on? What should the voter and indeed other stakeholders have at the back of their minds with regard to the role of BVAS in the electoral process?
Yeah, I want to say here that in the electoral process now, the BVAS is a game changer. And I don't know whether we can discuss this Osun's matter because it's still in court. But I will just say that the BVAS did not fail in Osun. The BVAS did not fail in Osun, and the BVAS did not support overvoting in Osun. I will not say more than that, but the BVAS, as we speak, in our electoral process, as of today, is a game changer.
Mr. Oluko.
Thank you. Allow just to back up what my colleague said by saying that for INEC, BVAS machine did not fail in Osun. The BVAS was never on trial as an equipment. And without prejudice to the legal issues involved, I'd like to put it on record that we've learned our lessons as a commission in terms of studying the whole situation. And during the general election, we will transmit the details of accreditation data to the INEC result viewing portal. Apart from transmitting the Form AC-8A, we will also transmit the details of the accreditation data into our IREV. I think that's what we've decided to do going forward. And let Nigerians to know that the BVAS was designed to stop voter impersonation, to stop identity theft at our polling units, which we could not stuff when we're using smart card readers. And that's why we are now saying that going forward, it's one man, one vote.
Okay,
and so people should come and vote. All their votes will count, and BVAS will perform optimally.
You know, thanks, Kilian. I know you are itching to double-barrel questions to our
so
two
they can conclude.
Yeah, because we're running out of time. Look, we keep talking about voter education, INEC, go and do this, INEC, go and do that. The beneficiaries of votes and voting, where are they? We couldn't get that from our correspondents now. Where were they? Were persons sufficiently mobilized to say, look, yes, INEC is going to do this mock exercise. Please go out. You talked about if you reduce it to the micro level, you have the world leader, party world. When they are doing party congress, it is war. Now it is time for you to mobilize your members or voters. Everybody is sitting on their hands.
We're just concluding. Just your last thoughts there.
So I think it's a collective responsibility in terms of ensuring that the message gets down there. And I would like to conclude that we all as stakeholders have a lot of work to do. There were actually in many parts of this country where people thought that the BVAS was a voting device. That's to tell you the level of information, So I think it's an ongoing process, and we keep calling also on the political parts, on the political parties to actually get there into the space and do what they have to do in terms of voter mobilization.
Okay, thank you.
It's first the understanding of the role of political parties. Do they understand their role? I think they've transformed to vote catching machines rather than, political parties are also platforms for civic and political education. But more importantly, INEC, beyond also organizing election, has a role. I don't know who put it as part of their function. Democratic and civic education is part of the component of INEC responsibilities.
All right.
And so how much it does that is important. It should stop telling us about where the chairman went to, who he visited and who visited him, and use the money of the people that are being used for enlightenment in the different stations to educate the people about what they need.
Thank you. We'll stop you there because we have no time again. First of all, let's appreciate our colleagues who monitored the mock exercise from Lagos, who had Joy Ken Ababoya. Thank you indeed, Joy, for waking up with us this morning. All right, and Susan Eze, our correspondent in Enugu Network Center, we appreciate your contribution this morning, as well as NTA Kano